Every morning I wake up with the first rays of the sun. Old habits die hard, especially when you're 78. My room is on the first floor of the house I bought 10 years ago. I didn't buy it for myself. I bought it for my daughter Noah, her husband Oliver, and their son Ashley. At the time, I felt like I was making the right choice. My room used to be a study, a small room with one window facing east. When I'd moved in, Oliver had reluctantly installed a tiny sink in here and set aside a corner for a refrigerator. "So you don't disturb us at night, Dawson," he'd said then, as if I were a lodger rather than a landlord. It's Tuesday, which means Noah is making his signature lasagna. I hear doors slamming upstairs, Ashley stomping, Oliver talking loudly on the phone. Just a normal evening in a house where I'm tolerated but not loved. At 6:30, I head upstairs for dinner. My presence at the table is a kind of tribute to a tradition Noah maintains out of respect, as she tells her friends on the phone. I heard this conversation months ago. "Yeah, my mom taught me to respect my elders, so we tolerate him at the table, even though Oliver is against it." "Good evening," I say as I enter the kitchen. Noah is mumbling something indistinctly, not turning away from the stove. Her blonde hair is gathered into a careless bun, her shoulders tense. My daughter has always been tense in my presence, even as a child. Oliver sits at his desk, staring at his phone. He's been a realtor for 15 years, but he still hasn't achieved the success he dreamed of. His dark hair has begun to thin, and at 39 there are already bald spots on his temples. Perhaps it was the effects of the stress of constant bad deals. "Hello, Dawson," he said, not looking up from the screen. Oliver never called me Dad, or even Mr. Hugh. Always only by my first name, as if we were co-workers who'd met by chance in the office cafeteria. "Hey, Grandpa's a wreck." Ashley, a 13-year-old whirlwind of mostly destructive energy, bursts into the kitchen. "Hello, Ashley," I said, trying to remain calm. "Ashley, don't start," Noah says tiredly, but there's no real reproach in her voice. My grandson smirks, showing off his braces, and defiantly moves his chair away from my seat. Or else what? He'll forget what I said again in 5 minutes. Oliver snickers, not looking away from his phone. It's his way of approving of his son's jokes, especially the ones directed at me. I sit down at the table and look at my hands. They aren't as strong as they used to be when I worked as an insurance appraiser. For 35 years, I had been traveling to accident scenes, assessing damages, talking to people on their worst days. I knew how to comfort a person who lost their home in a fire, and how to identify a fraudster trying to get a payout for a stolen car that he himself had drowned in a lake. Those hands seem alien now, covered in age spots with protruding veins, hands that no one else wants. "The lasagna is almost ready," Noah announces, setting the steaming dish on the table. She lays out the portions, the smallest one for me. "Gotta watch your health at your age, Dad," she says every time, even though we both know it's not about caring. "How was your day, Oliver?" Noah asks, ignoring my presence. "Showed the house on Chester Street, but the clients are picky again. They say the living room is too dark, as if I could change the windows." He irritably sticks his fork into his portion. "Did you talk to the Bradfords about lowering the price?" Noah goes into business partner mode. "They're being stubborn. I told you it's past time to overprice houses like this." I slowly chew the lasagna, which Noah always gets a little too salty, but no one tells her that. The family meal continues as if I'm not here. They discuss Oliver's work, Ashley's schoolwork, weekend plans, a whole world I'm excluded from. "Grandpa, is it true that dinosaurs still walk the earth when you were young?" Ashley suddenly asks, interrupting my parents' conversation. "Ashley!" This time, Noah's voice sounds genuinely displeased, but I can see the corners of her lips lift in a restrained smile. "What? I'm just interested in history, Mom. Mr. Patterson says you should ask your elders about the past. In my day, Young people showed more respect for their elders, I reply quietly. Oh, here we go, Oliver rolls his eyes. Now there's going to be a lecture about the good old days. I shut up and finish my portion in silence. Once upon a time, I dreamed of telling my grandchildren stories about my youth, about how I'd met their grandmother Mabel, how we'd traveled around Scotland on our honeymoon. But Ashley isn't interested in those stories, and my attempts to tell them anything are met with ridicule. After dinner, the family moves into the living room. I go there too. There's a new episode of Old Manor Secrets, a documentary series about old English houses, airing tonight. I settle into a chair and turn on the TV. Oh, good. It's about to start on that boring show about ruins, Oliver says loudly, plopping down on the couch next to Noah. I pretend not to hear and turn up the sound. The majestic views of Arundel Castle appear on the screen. Dad, can I turn it to something normal? Ashley asks, snatching the remote out of my hands. It's the finale of Off-Road Racers tonight. Without waiting for an answer, he changes the channel. The screen fills with roaring monster trucks spraying mud. Ashley, give the remote back to Grandpa, Noah says, but her tone makes it clear she doesn't expect obedience. Come on, Mom. Grandpa falls asleep in front of the TV after 10 minutes anyway. Who cares what's on? Oliver laughs and rubs his son's head. He's right, Noah. Besides, Dawson can watch his ruins on tape. Or just look out the window. There's plenty of junk out there, too. I get up from my chair, realizing that the battle over the TV is lost like so many other small battles over the years. I'm going to go to my room, I say, heading for the stairs. Don't forget to take your meds, Dad, Noah says to me, keeping his eyes on the screen. My room is cool and quiet. I sit on the bed and pull a picture of Mabel from the nightstand. She died 15 years ago, but I still talk to her every night. What have I done, Mabel? I whisper, looking at her smiling face. I thought I was securing our daughter's future, and I ended up being a burden. 10 years ago, when Oliver lost all their savings in a stock market speculation and Noah was pregnant with Ashley, I decided to help. Sold our house, where Mabel and I had lived for 30 years, and bought this 3-story mansion in a nice neighborhood in Salisbury. I thought we'd be a family, Noah, Oliver, their future child, and me. That we would have dinner together, discuss the day's events, that my grandson would drop by for advice or just to hear stories. How wrong I was. Things were relatively good for the first few months. Noah and Oliver were grateful, calling me the savior of the family. But gradually their attitudes changed. First, there was irritation with my habits. I got up too early, watched TV too loud, talked about the past too much. Then gratitude was replaced by a feeling that they owed me something, and that feeling quickly turned into resentment. When Ashley was born, I hoped things would change. But Noah and Oliver were careful to keep their son away from me. Don't pick him up, Daddy. You might drop him. Don't tell him those stories. They're too dark. Don't buy him toys like that. We know for ourselves what our son needs. As the years went by, I became invisible in my own home. I was still the owner on the deed, but I never once reminded my daughter and son-in-law of that. It seemed to me that if I was patient enough, if I was helpful enough, they would accept me. I fixed leaky faucets, mowed the lawn while I could, did minor repairs. But Oliver only criticized, "You're doing it all wrong, Dawson. These are outdated methods. You'd better not touch it. We'll call in a specialist." Picture Mabel looking at me with a mute question. What would she say if she saw how I live now? Probably would scold me for letting my daughter treat me like this. Mabel has always been stronger than me on such matters. I put the picture back on the nightstand and pull out my pills. I take them, not because Noah reminded me, but because I don't want to give them another reason to think I'm a helpless old man. There's loud laughter coming from the living room. They're watching some kind of comedy, laughing together like a real family, without me. I lie down on the bed without undressing and close my eyes. Tomorrow will be a new day, no different from today. I'll wake up at the crack of dawn, eat breakfast alone, maybe read the paper or watch the morning news. Then Noah will go to work, Ashley will go to school, Oliver will show houses to potential buyers, and I'll stay here in my little room in the house I bought that was never my home. Before I fall asleep, I think back to Mabel and I's apartment, small but cozy. Every corner there was filled with love and respect. Maybe that's what a real home is. Not walls and a roof, but a relationship between people living under the same roof. If so, I've been homeless for a long time. Wednesday began as usual. I woke up at 5:30 when there was still a pre-dawn silence outside my window. No matter how hard I try, I can't bring myself to sleep longer, a habit left over from my days at work. My joints crunched protestingly as I rose from the bed. 78 years is no joke. My body reminds me of that every morning. I quietly put the kettle on the stove in my makeshift kitchen nook. For many years I drank coffee, but Mabel had accustomed me to tea shortly before she died. "Dawson," she used to say, "coffee makes you nervous, and with your blood pressure it's an unacceptable luxury." As always, she was right. My morning routine takes exactly 45 minutes. Tea, toast with jam, pills, shower, shave. The movements have been honed over decades, and I perform them mechanically, letting my thoughts wander. Today I was thinking of Mabel, as I often do in the mornings. She loved early mornings as much as I did. Sometimes we would sit on the veranda of our old house, drinking tea and watching the city wake up. We didn't say a word. There was no need. At 7 o'clock, I heard the bathroom door slam upstairs. Oliver is always the first to shower, taking at least half an hour. Noah comes up next, making breakfast for himself and Ashley. Last to come down, usually after 8, is my grandson, who is always late for school. I decided to go out for my morning walk before the house filled with bustle. I pulled on an old coat that Noah had tried several times to accidentally throw away. "Dad, it looks like it was worn by Grandpa," and went out the side door leading directly from my room into the garden. The October morning greeted me with a chilly dampness. Salisbury doesn't enjoy warm weather even in summer, and in the fall I had to put up with a constant, bone-chilling dampness. I walked slowly down the path around the house, enjoying the silence. These are my moments of freedom as long as I don't see disparaging glances, don't hear condescending comments. When I returned, Noah and Ashley were already eating breakfast in the kitchen. Oliver was still upstairs, from the sounds of it. "Good morning," I said, trying to keep my voice upbeat. "Where were you so early, Dad?" Noah asked, not even looking at me. She was concentrating on buttering her toast as if the fate of the world depended on it. "Walked. Dr. Phelps says a daily walk is good for the heart. Just don't catch cold. We don't have time to take you to hospitals." Her tone was as cold as the morning air. Ashley hummed, not looking away from his phone. The boy had inherited Mabel's eyes, clear, gray-blue. Sometimes when I look at him, I see my late wife, and my heart clenches with longing and lost opportunity. If Mabel had been alive, perhaps things would have turned out differently. "I'm not going to catch a cold," I replied, trying to make a joke. At my age, every runny nose can be my last, so I save them for special occasions. Noah rolled her eyes, and Ashley didn't even notice my attempt to lighten the mood. I poured myself a cup of tea from the communal kettle and sat down in the far corner of the table, my unspoken assigned seat. "Ashley, did you do your science homework?" Noah turned to her motherly duties. "Yes, Mom," my grandson mumbled, not looking away from the screen. "And history?" Pause. "Ashley?" "Almost there," he finally answered. "All I have to do is write the conclusion." "Almost means no," Noah sighed. "Hurry up. You only have 15 minutes before you have to leave." I drank my tea in silence, watching this everyday scene. 10 years ago, when I first moved in with them, I tried to help Ashley with her homework. History had always been a passion of mine, and I could talk for hours about ancient Rome or medieval England. But Noah was quick to quash those attempts. "Dad, the curriculum has changed since you went to school. You're only confusing it." Oliver walked into the kitchen, immaculately dressed in a navy blue suit. He always looked like he was on the cover of a magazine for successful businessmen, a stark contrast to his actual career accomplishments. "Good morning, everyone." He kissed Noah on the cheek and ruffled Ashley's hair. He nodded to me, a barely perceptible head movement like a random passerby on the street. "I have an important meeting with the Farnsworths today," he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "If all goes well, the commissions will be very handsome." "Are they the ones interested in the house on Green Street?" Noah asked. "Yes, but I plan to show them a few other options. They have the budget to go for something more upscale." I noticed my daughter's eyes light up. She'd always dreamed of the luxurious life Oliver had promised her, but never delivered. Every potential grand bargain brought out this reaction in her, a mixture of hope and undercurrent of disbelief. "We really need that money," she said more quietly. "Ashley's tuition bill came in yesterday, and it's—" "I know, honey," Oliver interrupted her. "Everything's going to be all right. The Farnsworths are serious people. They don't waste time." I had finished my tea and was about to go to my room when Noah said to me, "Daddy, could you keep the washing machine off today? Mrs. Higgins is coming to do the cleaning, and if you make a flood again like last time—" "I didn't cause a flood," I objected. "It was just the drain hose slipping, and it could have happened to anyone." "Of course," Oliver snorted. "Just like every other accident in this house. Remember when you almost burned down the kitchen by leaving a pot on the stove?" "That was one time, 3 years ago." I felt the irritation rising inside me. "One memorable time out of many." Oliver glanced at his watch. "We should go. Ashley, come on. I'll give you a ride to school." They scurried about, gathering their bags, checking their phones and keys. 5 minutes later, the house was empty, and I was alone. These moments of solitude were both a blessing and a curse. No one looked at me with annoyance, but the silence was a reminder of how little I mattered in my family's life. I decided to tackle the laundry, despite Noah's prohibition. My clothes needed cleaning, and Mrs. Higgins wouldn't touch my room anyway, an unspoken rule set by my daughter. "Daddy has his own habits. Best not to touch his territory," she'd say, which really meant, "Don't waste your time on the old man." After loading the washing machine, I went back to my room and pulled an old wooden box out of the closet. It held my most prized possessions, Mabel's wedding ring, which she had taken off shortly before she died. "My fingers are swelling, Dawson, and I don't want it cut at the hospital." A few old photographs, letters, and my main treasure, my father's pocket watch. This watch was the only thing of value my father was able to pass on to me. A simple steel case with an engraving on the inside of the cover. "Time waits for no time, but time heals. G.H." My father's initials are Henry Hugh. The clock hadn't worked in years, but I kept it as a reminder of my roots, only there was no watch in the box. I went through the contents twice, then dumped everything on the bed. The ring, the photos, the letters, everything was there. The watch was gone. My first thought was that I'd forgotten where I'd put it. At my age, forgetfulness is not uncommon, though I struggled to fight it. I searched the nightstand, the closet, even looked under the bed. Nothing. The watch had simply disappeared, which could only mean one thing. Someone had been in my room and taken it. I sat down on the bed trying to gather my thoughts. Who could have taken the watch? Noah knew its value to me and wouldn't touch it. Oliver would stay away from my things, like he was afraid of getting old. That left Ashley. The boy always had a morbid curiosity about machinery, taking apart phones, breaking toys to see what was inside. A few times I'd seen him hanging around my room when I thought no one was home. I made my way up to the second floor and stopped in front of Ashley's room door. Going in there without permission was a violation of the house's unspoken rules. But it was about my father's watch, the only thing that connected me to him. I quietly opened the door. The room looked like a war zone. Scattered clothes, textbooks, pizza boxes. There was a tower of dirty plates on the table, and the walls were hung with posters of aggressive-looking musicians. I began to cautiously look around the room, trying not to touch anything. The desk drawers, the shelves, the bedside table. Nothing. As I was about to leave, I noticed the edge of something metal peeking out from under the bed. Bending over with difficulty, my back wasn't what it used to be, I saw the familiar steel case of my watch. It was partially disassembled, the lid separated from the case, a few gears lying nearby. I felt anger rise up inside me. Not so much over the theft, but over the cavalier manner in which the boy had handled a family heirloom. Gathering up the details, I returned to my room. My hands were shaking with excitement and indignation. What was I going to do? A confrontation with Ashley would inevitably lead to a scandal in which Noah and Oliver would side with their son. They always have. I decided to wait until Ashley got home from school and talk to him alone. Maybe if I approached him in a mature, non-accusatory way, he'd realize what he'd done was wrong. The day dragged on slowly. I tried to read, but my thoughts kept returning to the clock and the upcoming conversation. At 3 in the afternoon, I heard the front door slam. Ashley was back. I gave him time to go up to my room and find it missing. 15 minutes later, I went upstairs and knocked on his door. "What?" came a disgruntled voice. "Ashley, can I come in?" "I need to talk to you," I said as calmly as I could. "I'm busy," he shouted. "It's important. It's about my watch." A pause. Then reluctantly, "Come on in." Ashley sat at his computer, pretending to be absorbed in the game. I closed the door behind me and stood in the doorway. "I found my watch under your bed," I said without preamble. "It was disassembled." "So?" He didn't even turn around. "It's my father's watch. It's very dear to me as a memory. I'd like to know why you took it without asking." "I didn't take your stupid watch," Ashley snapped. "Maybe you put it there and forgot about it. You forget things." "Ashley, I'm not mad. I just want to know why. I said I didn't take them." He finally turned around, his face contorted with anger. "Are you accusing me of stealing? Mom's gonna find out about this." "I'm not accusing you, I'm just—" "Get out of my room. Now." I realized there was no conversation to be had. With a nod, I walked out and closed the door behind me. My heart was pounding, my mouth was dry. The confrontation I'd been dreading had happened anyway, and it had ended predictably badly. Back in my room, I tried to reassemble the clock, but some of the parts were missing. Perhaps it had been left in Ashley's room, or the boy had thrown it away without realizing its value. At 6 o'clock, I heard Noah return. Oliver came in almost immediately after her. I stayed in my room, knowing that Ashley would be sure to complain about me. The wait wasn't long. 10 minutes later, there was a sharp, demanding knock on my door. "Come in," I said, preparing myself for an unpleasant conversation. Noah came in, her face red with anger. "What's this all about, Dad? Why are you accusing Ashley of stealing?" "I didn't accuse him," I answered, trying to speak calmly. "I found my watch in his room, disassembled. I just wondered why he'd taken it." "Why did you even go into his room? You know the rules. Personal space is inviolable." "What about my personal space?" I objected. "Someone came into my room and took my stuff." "Ashley says he didn't take your watch." Noah crossed her arms over her chest. "And I believe my son." "Then how did it end up under his bed?" "I don't know. Maybe you put it there yourself and forgot about it, at your age." "I'm not a forgetful old man, Noah." I felt anger rising up inside me. "And I know I didn't put my watch under Ashley's bed." "Stop it!" She raised her voice. "I'm not going to let you blame my son. If you can't keep track of your stuff, that's your problem." She turned around and walked out, slamming the door. I remained seated, clutching the disassembled watch in my hands. A feeling of injustice and helplessness came over me. After a while, I hadn't noticed exactly how long I heard voices in the living room. Noah and Oliver were talking, not particularly concerned about being overheard. I went to the door and listened. "I can't take it anymore," Noah said. "He's getting weirder and weirder. Now he's blaming Ashley." "I've been saying for a long time that we need to do something about this," Oliver said. "He belongs in a nursing home where professionals can take care of him. Do you know how much that costs? We can't afford it. He's got some savings. It's not much, but it's enough for the first time. Then we can sell his things, his old furniture." I felt the blood drain from my face. They were discussing how to get rid of me with my own money. "I don't know, Oliver." Noah's voice sounded uncertain. "It's my father." "Honey, you said yourself how much his presence weighs on you, how tired you are of looking after him. Wouldn't it be better for everyone if specially trained people took care of him?" "Perhaps you're right." Noah sighed. "I am really tired. Every day wondering if he forgot to turn off the stove, if he fell in the bathtub. You see?" Oliver's voice became enthusiastic. "It's the solution to everything. He'll get professional care, and we'll be free. I'll hear about the options tomorrow." I stepped away from the door, feeling everything go cold inside. So this is how they see the solution to the problem. Send me to a nursing home on my own dime. Get rid of the burden. A bitter thought flashed through my mind. They don't even know that I still own the house. When I bought it 10 years ago, I was going to put it in Noah's name, but something stopped me. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the advice of Winston Bell's lawyer. "Take your time, Dawson. Time will sort things out." I never reminded my daughter that legally the house was mine. It didn't seem right to me to use it as leverage. I had hoped our relationship would be built on love and respect, not fear of losing the roof over our heads. How wrong I was. Sitting in the semi-darkness of my room, clutching my father's disassembled watch in my hands, I made a decision. I should call Winston. My old friend had always given me good advice, and I needed his help now more than ever. I pulled out my cell phone and dialed the number I knew by heart. Winston answered after the third ring. "Dawson? What a pleasant surprise. How are you, old sea wolf?" "Not so good, Winston," I answered quietly. "I need your help. Professional." "What's wrong?" My friend's voice became serious at once. "I want to sell the house, as soon as possible." Thursday morning was unexpectedly sunny for October in Salisbury. The rays shone through the thin curtains of my room, making fanciful patterns on the worn carpet. I'd been up most of the night pondering my conversation with Winston and the actions to be taken. "The house is definitely yours, Dawson," Winston told me over the phone yesterday. "I checked all the paperwork. You never deeded it to Noah, even though you were going to. Legally, you can dispose of it as you see fit." "How fast can you sell it?" I asked, feeling a strange mixture of determination and sadness. "Very quickly if you want to. I have several potential buyers in mind. You remember Horace Hill, don't you? He's long been interested in properties in your neighborhood to expand his chain of stores." Horace Hill. The name sounded familiar. The owner of a chain of hardware stores, a successful businessman with a reputation for not missing a bargain. Winston explained that Horace was willing to pay above market price for a house in such a prime location for his new flagship store. I asked Winston to set up a meeting for the next day. The sooner it was resolved, the better. Spending many more days under the same roof with people planning to get rid of me was beyond me. At 9 o'clock, I heard the front door slam. Noah had left for work. 15 minutes later, Oliver left as well. Ashley was supposed to be off to school, but from the sound of music from upstairs, he was still at home, probably skipping class, which had been happening more and more lately. I got up, got dressed, and headed upstairs with determination. I needed to get my watch, and now that Noah and Oliver weren't home was the perfect time to do it. The door to Ashley's room was ajar. I knocked, but there was no answer. The music was playing too loud. I cautiously peeked inside. Ashley was sitting with his back to me at his desk, leaning over something, his headphones completely isolating him from the outside world. I walked in quietly and immediately saw my watch. It was on the table right in front of him, completely disassembled. The small parts of the movement were spread out on a sheet of paper, and Ashley was trying to do something with the balance wheel with tweezers. "Ashley," I called out, stepping closer. He flinched and turned around, yanking off his headphones. "What the hell are you doing, spying on me?" His face contorted with anger and fear. "I came for my watch," I said calmly. "You took it without permission and dismantled it." "I didn't take anything." He jumped up, covering the table. "Get out of my room!" "Ashley, I see the clock. It's right behind you on the table." "It's my watch. I bought it at the flea market." "It's my father's watch." I kept my voice calm, even though I was seething inside. "It's engraved on the inside of the lid. Time waits for no time, but time heals. H.H. My father's initials are Henry Hugh." Ashley was confused for a moment, but quickly came to his senses. "I don't know anything about any engraving. It's my watch and I can do what I want with it." He grabbed the phone and started dialing. "Mom!" "Grandpa broke into my room again. He's accusing me of—" "Yeah, come quick." Ashley threw the phone on the bed and crossed his arms over his chest, looking at me defiantly. "You're done now, man. Mom said she was on her way home." I sighed. The conversation had gone to the worst-case scenario, but I wasn't going to back down. It was my father's watch, and I couldn't let a family heirloom stay with a kid who didn't even understand its value. "I'll wait here for Noah," I said, sitting down on the edge of the bed, "and we'll deal with this situation together." We sat in tense silence for about 20 minutes. Finally, the door slammed downstairs, and there were quick footsteps on the stairs. "Ashley?" Noah's voice sounded worried. "What's wrong?" She appeared in the doorway, out of breath, her hair disheveled. When she saw me sitting on her son's bed, she turned pale with anger. "What's going on here?" she asked in an icy tone. "He broke into my room again." Ashley instantly went on the offensive. "He's accusing me of stealing a watch." "Not some watch, my father's watch," I said, standing up. "Ashley took it from my room without permission and took it apart. It's right there on the table." Noah looked at the table where the disassembled watch was indeed lying, then back at me. "Dad, we already talked about this yesterday. Ashley said he didn't take your watch, and I believe him." "Noah, look at the watch." I pointed to the table. "Look at the engraving on the inside of the case. Those are my father's initials, your grandfather's initials." "There's no engraving." Ashley quickly intervened. "It's my watch. I bought it at the flea market." Noah walked over to the table and lifted the lid of the watch. I saw her eyes widen for a moment as she saw the engraving. "Ashley," she said quietly, "this watch is really Grandpa's. It has the engraving he was talking about." "I didn't know." Now Ashley was moving on to another tactic. "I found it on the floor in the hallway and thought it was nobody's." The story was so ridiculous that even Noah didn't seem convinced. But instead of holding her son accountable, she turned to me. "Dad, why did you go into Ashley's room again without permission? We agreed yesterday that personal space is inviolate." "What about my personal space?" I objected. "Ashley went into my room, took my stuff." "I did not go into your room," shouted Ashley. "I found a clock in the hallway." "That's enough." Noah raised her voice. "I'm tired of these endless accusations. Dad, you can't go into Ashley's room anymore without his permission. Ever again, do you understand?" "What about my watch?" I asked. "It's still disassembled. Ashley doesn't even know how to put it back together." "Ashley, please give the watch to Grandpa," Noah said, as if she were doing me a huge favor. "It does belong to him." "But I'm not done with it yet," Ashley whimpered. "Give me the watch." Her voice grew harsher. Ashley reluctantly gathered the watch parts into a small plastic container and handed it to me without making eye contact. "Here, take your junk." I took the container, feeling a wave of anger rising inside. Not just because of the watch, but because of the attitude, a complete disregard for other people's feelings, for other people's property. Dad, we need to have a serious talk, Noah continued. What's been happening the last few days is unacceptable. You've been invading Ashley's privacy, accusing him of stealing. He had the watch, Noah. I interrupted her. He took it without permission. That's a fact. There may have been a misunderstanding, she paused. But the point is, you're getting difficult. Sometimes I think you're, out of your mind. Those words hit harder than I expected. Not because I was afraid of losing my mind, I was well aware of my cognitive abilities, but because my own daughter was using it as a weapon against me. I'm in perfect health, Noah, I replied calmly. And I remember exactly where I put my things. Daddy, please, she sighed. Let's not make this any harder than it has to be. I realize that at your age, it's hard to admit to some changes, but we can all see that you're becoming forgetful, sometimes aggressive. I think we all need to calm down, Noah said after a pause. Daddy, please go to your room. We'll talk later when you're in a more adequate state. I looked at my daughter. Her face was determined, but I saw something else in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? It was hard to tell. But one thing was clear. She no longer saw me as a father. I was a problem to be solved. I'm leaving, Noah, I said quietly. Not out of the room, out of the house. What? She looked stunned. What are you talking about? I heard your conversation with Oliver last night, about how you plan to send me to a nursing home on my own dime. Noah went pale. Dad, you misunderstood. We were just discussing options. I got it right, I replied. And I'm leaving, right now. Where are you going? This is stupid. There was a note of panic in her voice. You can't just leave. Yes, I can. And I am. I left Ashley's room and went downstairs to my room. I quickly gathered the essentials, clothes, papers, a picture of Mabel. Everything fit into one suitcase. When I got upstairs with the suitcase, Noah was standing in the hall, arms crossed over her chest. Is this some kind of stupid demonstration? She asked. Do you think I'm going to beg you to stay? No, Noah, I'm just leaving. And go where? Her voice was full of sarcasm. Do you have a place to go? I do, I answered calmly. And don't worry, I won't be a burden to you and your family anymore. At that moment, the front door opened and Oliver walked in. He looked at me in surprise, then at the suitcase. What's going on? He asked. Dad's leaving, Noah said. He said he overheard us talking about the nursing home last night. Oliver looked embarrassed for a moment, but quickly pulled himself together. Dawson, you misunderstood. We were discussing options for your own good. At your age. Don't bother, Oliver, I interrupted him. I understood perfectly. I headed for the door. Noah and Oliver exchanged glances, clearly unsure how to react. They were expecting a scandal, tears, a plea to stay, but not a quiet exit. Dad, you can't just leave, Noah made one last attempt. Let's sit down and talk like adults. It's too late for talking, Noah, I replied, opening the door. Goodbye. I stepped out onto the porch and heard Oliver shout after me, It's finally going to be just our house. I didn't turn around and didn't answer. The cab I'd called was waiting at the curb. The driver helped me load my suitcase into the trunk. Where are we going? He asked. 21 Highfield Street, I answered. Mr. Winston Bell's office. The car started and I didn't look back at the house I had once bought with such hopes. The future was uncertain, but definitely more dignified than the past. Winston was waiting for me at the entrance to his office building. We went up to his office where Horace Hill, a tall, trim man with gray hair and a penetrating gaze, was already there. After exchanging greetings, we got down to business. Winston laid out on the table the documents for the sale of the house. Horace studied them carefully, nodding to some thoughts of his own. Is the price we discussed with Winston satisfactory to you? he asked, looking at me. It was well above the market value of the house. Horace really wanted the property. Yes, it's fine, I answered. Good, Horace smiled. I suggest we close the deal today. My bank has already prepared the transfer. All I need is your signature. I took the pen and thought for a moment. Was I sure? The house I had bought for my family would now become a store. All hopes, all plans for a happy life together. But then I remembered the last 10 years, the daily humiliation, the neglect, Oliver's last words. I'm sure, I said, and signed the contract. Horace signed it too, then pulled out his phone and made a quick call. The transfer will be done within the hour, he said, ending the call. Is anyone living there now? My daughter and her family, I answered. They don't know about the sale. I understand, Horace nodded. Normally we give tenants 30 days to move out, but in this case, let's just say I need to start work as soon as possible. I can give them 3 days. It'll be on the notice I'll send out today. 3 days is plenty, I agreed. When Horace came out to make another call, Winston looked at me understandingly. What do you plan to do next, Dawson? He asked. Get an apartment, I answered. Something small, but comfortable. Maybe near the center. I know a real estate agent, Winston smiled. A good one, unlike your brother-in-law. I can call him right now and you'll have a new place by tonight. Thanks, friend. I was genuinely grateful. I don't know what I'd do without you. The next day began unusually for me. I woke up not in my small room at Noah's house, but in Winston's guest bedroom. It was a spacious room with high ceilings and a large window overlooking the manicured garden. No one was slamming doors over their heads. No one was playing music at full volume. No one was talking in a tone full of irritation. Silence and peace were sensations long forgotten. Esther, Winston's wife, had prepared breakfast, scrambled eggs and bacon, toast with jam and strong tea. She fussed around me, slipping me a refill and asking me how I was feeling. There was genuine concern in her eyes, not the irritation I was used to. You look rested, Dawson, Winston said, sitting down across from me with a cup of coffee. How did you sleep in your new place? Better than I had in 10 years, I admitted. Thank you for your hospitality. What hospitality? Esther dismissed it. Your family, Dawson. You're welcome to stay with us as long as you need to. Family. I didn't associate that word with Noah and Oliver and Ashley anymore. Now it's taken on a new meaning. People who really care about you, respect you. Horace called this morning, Winston said, getting down to business. The money has already been transferred to your account. He also sent a formal notice to your daughter and her husband. They should receive it this afternoon. I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of emotions. On the one hand, justice had been served. On the other, this was my daughter and grandson, whom I had once loved unconditionally, who I still loved no matter what. Are you sure 3 days is enough? I asked. Maybe I should have given them more time? Winston shook his head. Dawson, they were planning to put you in a nursing home using your own money, without your consent. That's not just ingratitude, it's financial abuse of an elderly person. In some cases, it's considered a criminal offense. Winston is right, dear, Esther added softly. I know she's your daughter, but the way they've treated you, it's unforgivable. I sighed. They were right, but my heart still ached. Anyway, it's settled, I said. What about the apartment? Did your agent find anything? Yes, and it's a great one, Winston said, brightening up. A small but very cozy apartment on the high street, a stone's throw from the Central Park and the library. Second floor, elevator. The owner is an old client of mine, a good man. He's willing to rent it to you at a reasonable price starting today. If you want, we can go look at it after breakfast. That sounds wonderful, I smiled, feeling the anxiety slowly recede. The apartment was exactly as Winston had described, bright, spacious, with modern furniture and everything I needed. The living room window overlooked a quiet street with neat trees. The owner, an elderly gentleman named Archibald Pratt, personally showed me around and handed me the keys. "Welcome, Mr. Hugh," he said, shaking my hand. "I hope you'll be comfortable here." "Thank you, Mr. Pratt. I'm sure I'll be happy here." By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was settled into my new apartment. Esther helped me organize my things, and Winston brought some books from his library, so I wouldn't be bored. I felt strange, as if I had been 10 years younger, having shed the weight of daily humiliation. "Are you all right, Dawson?" Winston asked before he left. "I can stay if you want." "I'm fine, friend," I assured him. I needed some time to myself to process everything that had happened. He nodded understandingly and hugged me goodbye. "Call me any time, and come to dinner tomorrow," Esther insisted. After Winston left, I sat in a chair by the window with a cup of tea and opened one of the books he had brought. But my thoughts kept returning to Noah, Oliver, and Ashley. I wondered if they'd gotten the notice yet. How had they reacted? Part of me wanted to know. The other part of me would rather never think about them again. At that moment, my phone rang. Noah's name popped up on the screen. I took a deep breath, gathering my strength, and answered it. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" Noah's voice was ringing with rage. "We just got some kind of eviction notice. It says you sold the house." "It's true, Noah," I replied calmly. "I sold the house." You, she gasped with indignation. "You had no right. This house is ours. You gave it to us 10 years ago." "I never transferred the deed to your name, Noah. Legally, the house has always been mine." There was a brief pause. Then Noah exploded with renewed vigor. "There must be some mistake. You couldn't have. It's impossible. We've lived here for 10 years. We have rights." "As tenants, yes," I agreed. "That's why you've been given 3 days to move out." 3 days! She started yelling. "Are you crazy? Where are we going to go in 3 days? Where are we going to live? What about our stuff?" "You could have thought of that earlier when you were planning to send me to a nursing home using my own money," I said quietly. There was another pause. I could almost physically feel her searching for words. "You overhear our conversation with Oliver?" Her voice lowered. "It was just a conversation, Dad. We were considering options." "Options to get rid of me," I finished for her, "using my life savings." "You've got it all wrong," she exclaimed. "We were worried about you. You're becoming forgetful, irascible." "That's enough, Noah," I interrupted her. "I don't want to discuss this anymore. The house is sold. The money has been transferred. You have 3 days to find a new place to live." "Daddy, please." There was a pleading note in her voice. "You can't do this to us. We're your family. What's going to happen to Ashley? Do you want your grandson living on the streets?" "You have a good job. Oliver has a good job. You'll find a place to live," I said. "And don't try to pressure me through Ashley. That boy never saw me as a grandfather, just an annoying old man." You're a monster," she blurted out. "I never thought my father was capable of such cruelty." "And I never thought my daughter would plan how to get rid of her father," I parried. Apparently, we were both wrong. I heard a sob on the other end of the line. Noah was crying, from anger, from despair, from the realization that she had lost control of the situation. "Who bought the house?" she finally asked, trying to pull herself together. "Maybe we can negotiate a longer term with the new owner." "Horace Hill," I answered. "He plans to open the flagship store of his chain there. The remodeling is scheduled to begin in 3 days." "A store?" Her voice trailed off. "You sold our house for a store?" "It was my house, Noah, and yes, it's going to be a store now." I heard something crash in the background, and then Oliver's loud voice boomed. "Give me the phone. I'll talk to that old crook myself." There was a rustle, and now Oliver was yelling in my ear, "Dawson, you have no idea what you've done. I'm going to sue you. This is fraud. You defrauded us." "Oliver, you're a realtor," I reminded him. "You should have checked the deed to the house before you considered it yours. That's your professional obligation. Yep, yep, he stammered. You let us know it was ours. You said you were buying it for Noah. I never said I put it in her name. You jumped to that conclusion and didn't bother to check. You're going to regret this, Dawson, Oliver growled. I'll find a way to challenge this deal. I have connections. Good luck, I said calmly. Winston Bell made sure the deal was perfectly legal. You can consult a lawyer if you want to waste more money. I heard Oliver curse, and then Noah picked up the phone again. Dad, please, let's talk calmly. I can come over to your place and we can talk about this face to face. There's no need, Noah, I said. Everything has already been decided. Use the remaining time to find a new place to live and pack. But 3 days? That's impossible. Where are we going to put all the furniture and things? We've accumulated so much stuff over 10 years. That's your problem, I said firmly. Just like the plans to send me to a nursing home were your problems. It's every man for himself now. I disconnected the call without waiting for an answer. The phone immediately rang again, but I didn't answer. A minute later, the message came back. You're going to regret this, Dad. I swear you'll regret it. I put my phone on silent and went back to my book, but I couldn't concentrate. My imagination was painting pictures of what was going on in my former house. Noah running around the rooms, yelling at Oliver, accusing him of not checking the paperwork. Oliver calling his contacts, trying to find a legal loophole. Ashley sitting in his room, probably sorting through something else that didn't belong to him. The next call came in around 6 in the evening. This time it was Winston. Dawson, how are you? He asked with concern. Your daughter called me. She was very, emotional. I can imagine, I sighed. What did she say? Mostly threatening legal action, demanding an explanation of how I could help you throw your own family out on the street. Winston chuckled. I explained the legal side of things to her and advised her not to waste time and money on futile lawsuits. Thank you, friend. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Don't apologize, he brushed it off. I'm happy to help bring justice. By the way, Horace called too. Said your brother-in-law came to see him, trying to offer himself as a real estate agent for his future deals in exchange for an extension on the eviction. And Horace? Turned him down, of course, said he already had a reliable agent and the remodeling schedule was set. Seems your son-in-law didn't impress him with his professionalism. I imagined this scene. Oliver, always so self-assured, trying to use his charm on Horace Hill, a man known for his business acumen and his dislike of unprofessionals. And Horace also mentioned that he saw an ad for an urgent sale of furniture at the address of your former home, Winston added. Looks like they've already started getting rid of things they can't move. That was to be expected. The house has accumulated a lot of stuff over the years, and most of it they won't be able to take with them, especially if they're urgently moving into an apartment. In the evening, I decided to walk to the park to clear my head. It had been an emotionally intense day, and I needed to gather my thoughts. Salisbury was beautiful at dusk, the old buildings illuminated by the soft light of the street lamps, the quiet streets, the peaceful atmosphere. I sat on a park bench watching couples walking arm in arm, mothers with strollers, teenagers on skateboards, the ordinary lives of ordinary people. I once had a life like that too, with Mabel, with little Noah. We were happy until death took my wife. Maybe that's when things started to change. Noah blamed me for not being able to save her mother from cancer, though she never said so explicitly. My phone vibrated in my pocket, another message from Noah. We found an apartment, disgusting, cramped, on the outskirts of town. The landlord charged us double the deposit, knowing our situation. Are you happy? Your grandson's going to live in a room the size of a closet. I hope you're happy in your solitude. I didn't answer. What could I say? That I was sorry? That wouldn't be true. I regretted that our relationship had broken down, but not my decision. It was the right decision, albeit a painful one. Back at the apartment, I found 5 more missed calls from Noah and 3 more voicemails. I forced myself to listen to them. Dad, it's me. We've started packing. Ashley won't stop crying. He doesn't understand why he has to leave all his stuff, his room. How could you do that to your own grandson? Oliver just got back from that hill, to no avail. Now he's calling everyone he knows looking for movers to help us with the move. Do you know how much an emergency move costs? You're bankrupting us. We are forced to sell almost all of our furniture for next to nothing. People, after hearing about our situation, are offering ridiculous amounts of money. You've robbed us of everything, Dad. Everything we had. I'll never forgive you for that. The last message was sent with a sob. I felt a prick of conscience, but quickly reminded myself of what they planned to do to me. Was their plan to send me to a nursing home against my will, using my own money, any more humane? The next morning I awoke to the sound of rain drumming on the eaves. The weather matched my mood, gloomy and overcast. I brewed coffee and sat by the window, watching people hurrying about their business under umbrellas. The phone vibrated again, another message from Noah. We're moving today. The movers will be here at 2. We'll have to leave most of our stuff behind. If you have any humanity left in you, come help. If only for Ashley's sake. I stared at that message for a long time, wondering, should I go? On the one hand, this was my daughter and my grandson, no matter what. On the other, after everything that had happened, my showing up would only make things worse. Besides, I doubted Ashley was really upset about my absence. It was more likely that he was blaming me for all of his problems, just like his parents had taught him. In the end, I decided not to go. Instead, I sent a short reply. I hope the move goes smoothly. Good luck in your new place. There was no reply, nor did I expect one. Our paths had diverged for good, and perhaps it was for the best, for all of us. In the afternoon, Horace Hill called. Mr. Hugh, I just wanted to let you know that your daughter and her family have already left home. My men will begin preparations for the remodeling tomorrow. Thank you for the information, Mr. Hill, I replied. I hope the house will be all right. Oh, don't worry. We plan to keep the exterior of the building, just change the interior layout. It's going to be a great store. You won't recognize it when you come to the opening. I'm afraid I don't plan on coming, I said quietly. I understand. He sounded sympathetic. Anyway, thank you for your cooperation. I wish you good luck in the future. In the evening, I had dinner at Winston and Esther's as promised. They tried to distract me with talk of books, politics, future plans. Esther insisted that I enroll in some courses to keep my mind busy and meet new people. Painting, perhaps, she suggested, or art history. The local college has some great programs for adults. Maybe, I smiled. Mabel always said I had a talent for drawing. You see? Esther exclaimed. I'll find out the schedule tomorrow. As I drove home, it was strange to think of the new apartment as home, but it felt like home. But it was coming gradually. I reflected that life didn't end at 78. New opportunities, new horizons were opening up in front of me. No pressure, no constant feeling of being a burden. As I entered the apartment, the phone vibrated again. Another text from Noah. We've moved. The apartment is terrible. Ashley refuses to unpack, says she hates the new school. Oliver blames me for not checking the paperwork on the house. I hope you're satisfied with ruining our family. I didn't bother to respond. No matter what I said, it wouldn't make a difference. They had made their choice years ago when they decided I was just an annoying old man to get rid of at the first opportunity. I made my choice now, deciding I deserved better. Turning off my phone, I walked over to the window. The rain had stopped and the first stars appeared in the sky. Somewhere out there, among them, was Mabel. I hoped she would approve of my actions. I'm starting a new life, darling, I whispered into the silence of the apartment. One without humiliation, without neglect. A life where I can breathe freely. And for the first time in years, I felt like it was actually possible. It's been 3 weeks since I moved into my new apartment. In that time, I have never once regretted the decision. Every morning I woke up with a sense of freedom and peace that I hadn't experienced in years. No one looked at me with irritation. No one rolled their eyes at the sound of my voice. No one made hurtful comments about my age. The apartment was slowly becoming a real home. I bought a few paintings that reminded me of the places where Mabel and I were happy, a cozy reading chair, new dishes. I turned the small balcony into a green corner with indoor plants, geraniums, violets, a small lemon bush. Mabel had always loved flowers, and now, tending them, I felt as if she were there for me. Winston and Esther often visited me, bringing home baked goods, books, sometimes just a cup of tea. Esther, true to her word, had found out all about an art course at the local college. "Here, Dawson," she said, handing me a colorful booklet. "Classes start in 2 weeks, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The instructor is a well-known local artist, Philip James. I've studied the program carefully. Basic drawing, watercolor, oil painting, everything I once dreamed of but never had time for because of work and then Mabel's illness." "It looks wonderful, Esther," I smiled. "I think I'll sign up." "Great." She clapped her hands together. "I knew you'd like it. Winston says you've always had an artistic view of the world." "Winston is too kind to me," I laughed. "But I've really always loved art. Mabel even gave me a set of paints for our 20th anniversary, but I never found time to use them." "Now you have all the time in the world," Esther said softly, squeezing my hand. "And you deserve to spend it on things that bring you joy." The next day I signed up for classes and bought everything I needed to paint: easel, paints, brushes, canvases. The salesperson at the art store, an elderly woman with kind eyes, helped me choose quality materials. "Starting a new hobby?" she asked as she packed my purchases. "Reviving an old one," I replied. Many years ago I dreamed of learning to paint, but life always found other things for me to do. "It's never too late to start doing what you love," she smiled. "My husband learned to play the saxophone at the age of 65. Now he and his friends have a jazz quartet playing in local pubs. That story inspired me. If a man of 65 can master a musical instrument, then I, at 78, can learn to paint." In addition to painting, I decided to fulfill another long-held dream: to go to the coast. Mabel and I often talked about spending a few days in a small seaside town, walking on the beach, watching the sunset, breathing the salty air. But first work, then Mabel's illness, and then living with Noah and her family all put our dream on hold until it was too late for both of us. Now I could go alone, but with the feeling that Mabel was still with me. I booked a small guest house in Lyme Regis for 3 days. Winston offered to drive me, but I decided to take the train. I wanted to enjoy the journey, to look at the scenery outside the window. Lyme Regis turned out to be exactly as I had imagined: a cozy seaside town with narrow streets running down to the sea, old houses and friendly people. The guest house was located on a hill, and from the window of my room I had a breathtaking view of the bay. 3 days flew by like a blink of an eye. I walked along the beach, collected seashells, watched seagulls, had lunch in small coastal cafes. In the evenings I sat on the terrace of the guest house with a glass of wine, watched the sunset, and talked to Mabel as I had done every night for the last 15 years. "You see, darling, I've made it to the sea after all," I said, looking out at the horizon, where the sky was merging with the water into a single canvas of orange and pink. "I only wish you were there." The last night I even sketched the sunset, my first drawing in decades. It was far from perfect, but there was something sincere and alive about it. I decided to keep it as a reminder that it's never too late to start something new. Back in Salisbury, I set about organizing my life with renewed vigor. Painting classes began, and I met other students. mostly retired people like me who wanted to fill their lives with creativity. Philip James turned out to be an excellent teacher, patient, attentive, and able to find an approach to everyone. "You have a good eye, Mr. Hugh," he said as he looked at my first still life drawing, "and a sense of composition. We'll work on the technical side, but you've got the basics down." That praise gave me confidence. Maybe Mabel was right when she said I had talent. I began to spend more time at the easel trying to capture the views from the window, the flowers on the balcony, the memories of the sea. Life was getting better. I had a routine, a morning walk in the park, reading the newspaper at the corner cafe, painting, evening tea with Winston and Esther, or watching a documentary. I even got to know a few neighbors, an elderly couple a floor above and a retired widowed librarian from the first floor. We sometimes went to the local theater or classical music concerts together. I hadn't heard from Noah in 2 weeks. The last message from her was full of accusations and bitterness, and I decided not to respond. Let the emotions settle, and then maybe we could talk like adults. One evening, as I was returning from my art class, I saw a familiar figure at the entrance to my house. Noah was leaning against the wall, smoking, a habit I thought she had kicked years ago. "Daddy," she said, noticing me. Her voice sounded tired, without the rage of before. "Noah," I nodded. "I didn't expect to see you." "Can I come in? We need to talk." I paused for a second, then nodded. "Sure, let's go upstairs." We walked silently up to the second floor. I opened the apartment door and let Noah go through. She stopped in the hallway looking around. "It's cozy," she said finally. "Do you like it here?" "Yes, very much," I answered, walking into the living room. "Would you like some tea? Do you have anything stronger?" I took the bottle of whiskey Winston had given me out of the cabinet and poured her some. "Thank you." She took a sip and grimaced. I was used to hard liquor. We sat down in the chairs across from each other. Noah looked gaunt, shadows under her eyes. She twirled her glass nervously in her hands, hesitant to start a conversation. "How did you find me?" I asked, to break the silence. "Through Winston," she answered. "He didn't want to talk at first, but I was persistent." "I see," I nodded. "How are you settling in?" Noah grinned bitterly. "Terrible. The apartment is small, damp, with mold in the bathroom. The neighborhood is noisy, and the neighbors are all students and immigrants. Ashley hates his new school, says he's being bullied, and Oliver and I—" she stammered, then took a swig of her whiskey. "We're on the verge of divorce." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. She looked at me defiantly. "Are you really sorry? You're the one who's responsible for everything that's happening to us." "No, Noah," I shook my head. "I'm not to blame for your problems. I just didn't want to be your victim anymore." "Victim?" she snorted. "You lived with us for free for 10 years. We fed you, took care of you." "For free?" I couldn't hold back a bitter chuckle. "I bought you a house, Noah, a house that cost a fortune, and what did I get in return? 10 years of neglect, ridicule, humiliation. 10 years of living in a room the size of a closet where I was tolerated but not loved." "We loved you," she exclaimed. "In our own way, but we loved you." "Love doesn't look like that," I replied quietly. "Love doesn't plan to get rid of a person by sending them to a nursing home on their own dime." Noah lowered her eyes. For the first time, I saw something resembling shame in her face. "It was just a conversation, Dad. We were upset, talking without thinking. And all those years when Oliver would turn off the TV if I watched my favorite program, when Ashley made fun of my age, when you rolled your eyes every time I opened my mouth, were those just conversations too?" She was silent, so I continued. "I put up with it for a long time, Noah. A very long time. I thought that in time you would realize that I wasn't just an old man taking up space in your house, that I'm a man deserving of respect, that I am your father after all. But that didn't happen. And so you decided to punish us." Her voice trembled. "Throw us out on the street, ruin our lives." "I didn't punish you," I sighed. "I just didn't want to live where I wasn't respected anymore. And yes, the house was mine. I had every right to sell it." "But you said you were buying it for us." Her voice was accusatory again. "I said I was buying it so we could live together as a family. But we were never a family in that house, Noah. You were a family. You, Oliver, Ashley. And I was, nothing." Noah poured herself another whiskey, drank it down, and finally said what she'd come to say. "We need money, Dad. Oliver lost his job. The clients found out he'd looked at the deeds to our own house, and no one wants to do business with him anymore. I can't pay everything myself. Rent, bills, Ashley's school. That's it. It wasn't remorse that brought her to me. It was financial." "How much do you want?" I asked in a steady voice. "At least some of the money from the sale of the house," she replied. "After all, we lived there for 10 years. We put our souls into it, renovated it, fixed it up." "Remodeled?" I couldn't hold back a chuckle. Oliver couldn't even hammer in a nail without hired help, and when I tried to fix things, I was ridiculed for outdated methods. "That's not fair, Dad." Noah raised her voice. "You got a lot of money for the house and we got nothing." "Fairness." I shook my head. "Was it fair the way you treated me all these years? Was it fair to plan to send me to a nursing home to take over my savings?" Noah was silent, so I continued. "I won't give you any money, Noah. Not because I'm greedy or vindictive. It's because it won't solve your problems. The money will run out and you'll be back to the same condition, but without the ability to ask for more." "What do we do?" She sounded desperate. "Ashley would have to drop out of private school. We could lose our apartment." "Start over," I said. "Learn to live within your means. Let Oliver find a job, any job, even if it's not as prestigious as being a realtor. Make Ashley realize that life has its challenges and that's okay. It'll make him stronger." "Easy for you to say," she snapped. "Sitting in my cozy apartment with the money from the sale of our house." "My house," I corrected. "And yes, it does feel easy. For the first time in years. I no longer feel unwanted, a burden. I'm living the life I want, doing what makes me happy. And you know what? I've earned it." Noah jumped up, her face contorted with anger. "You selfish old man. You think only of yourself. What about your grandson?" "It's not his fault. Ashley repeats what he sees and hears from you," I said calmly. "If you and Oliver learn to respect others, he will. If he doesn't, he'll grow up to be just like you. And someday he'll probably face the same problems." "I'm not listening to this anymore." Noah grabbed her bag. "You're a cruel, heartless man. I had hoped you had a shred of compassion left in you, but I see I was wrong." "I've had compassion for you for 10 years, Noah," I said quietly. "The humiliation, the ignoring, the ridicule. All that time I hoped you would change your attitude toward me, but you haven't. So I decided to change my life." "Goodbye, Daddy." She headed for the door. "I hope you'll be happy in your solitude." "I'm already happy, Noah," I replied. "And I'm not alone. I have friends, hobbies, plans for the future. All the things I didn't have when I was living with you." She slammed the door without saying goodbye. I remained seated in the chair, staring at the unfinished whiskey in her glass. Strangely, I felt no anger or resentment, just a quiet certainty that I had done the right thing. After a while, I got up, walked to the window, and opened it. The fresh evening air filled the room. The streetlights were on. People were hurrying home after work, and quiet music was playing in a nearby cafe. Life went on, and so did my life. I looked at my easel, where the drawing I had started, a view of the park from my window, stood. Tomorrow I would continue working on it, and then maybe start a portrait of Mabel based on an old photograph. I had so many plans, so many ideas. At that moment the phone rang. Winston was inviting me to Sunday lunch. I gladly accepted. After the conversation, I sat down in my chair and picked up the book I had started reading that morning. It was a story about a man who traveled around the world in his old age and discovered a new world. Maybe I should travel more too. Not necessarily around the world, but at least around England. To visit places that Mabel and I have dreamed of visiting but never got around to. The Lake District, York, Edinburgh. There's still so much to see, even at 78. I closed my eyes and for the first time in a long time felt completely at peace. No fear of tomorrow, no sense that I was disturbing anyone, that my presence was unwelcome. Just the quiet certainty that I am finally where I am supposed to be, in a place I can call home, among people who are really happy to see me. Maybe that's what happiness is, to breathe fully, without fear that your breath is annoying someone. To live life to the fullest without feeling like a burden, to be yourself without apologizing for it. I opened my eyes and smiled. There were so many exciting things ahead of me, and I was ready for this new phase of my life, free from humiliation, full of dignity and peace.